Hi, I'm over to TheAllSeeingCamera. We back to the channel with another one. Today we're here to react to and review Day 5 of the Meg Thee Stallion versus Tory Lanez trial. Today we'll get into a couple more things. If you need a quick recap of what happened Day 4, Kelsey admitted that Meg was lying when she said, I just got out the car by myself, and then she's turned around and saw Tory Lanez shooting. She said when she got out the car, I also got out the car with her, and it was a physical altercation. It was a fight that happened. That goes against something that Megan. If you haven't seen the Day 4 recap, I suggest you go back and watch that right after this video, just so all the pieces can fall in place. Let's jump into Day 5 and not waste any more time.
I watched Kelsey Harris testify for 2 full days. I watched her struggle and hesitate and take abnormally long pauses when she did not want to answer questions. I watched her respond, oh, it was confusing, it was blurry, I don't know, I don't remember, when she didn't want to answer questions.
Also remember that they're lit, so they're playing off that a lot. I was drunk, I don't remember, I was lit.
I also saw her answer some questions in the morning session very confidently, very believably. But there was one question that she answered that when she gave the answer, I felt like I was seeing the real, authentic Kelsey Harris, a person I was having a conversation with at a coffee shop like a friend, not somebody testifying on the trial. The question was this, they asked her, did you hear someone yell, dance bitch? She said, now where did that come from?
Where did that come from? Where did that come from? That came from Megan herself. And I told you, imagine somebody about to shoot somebody. Before they do, they say what we all used to laugh at as kids in them old school movies. Dance, bitch, dance, Black and white, just shooting at the ground. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense.
Those words that loom so large over this trial, the fact that the prosecution claims, Meg claims, that that Tory yelled, dance bitch, and pointed a gun at her. Kelsey Harris said, now where did that come from? She didn't just say, no, I didn't hear it. She said, where did that come from? And she said it in a very authentic manner. Like she, for the life of her, cannot figure out where in the hell that came.
That came from Meg Thee Stallion, shorty. And yes, Meg lied, we all know.
For the final day of the first week of the Tory Lanez trial, the prosecution is expected to put on witnesses. They're going to play a whole tape of Kelsey's recorded interview with the police. I'm not sure how significant that's going to be. Here are the witnesses who I think will be significant. Now, I expect the prosecution to call the only sort of completely partial outside witness to this incident, and that is the resident of the home near where the gunshots went off. That individual said he heard things. He said he saw the muzzle go off when the woman was near the gun. He said he saw what appeared to be 2 women fighting. If the prosecution does not call this man as a witness and they leave it to the defense to call him, that tells me a lot that the prosecution is not putting on the truth. They're just putting on an extremely one-sided version of the story. I expect them to call him. The other witness that's very interesting is the police officer, Detective Stogner, the lead investigator in this case. The prosecution is not calling him to testify because they're saying that he's on administrative leave. The defense is saying, wait a second, he's not on administrative leave. First you told me he's getting terminated. Now you're telling me he's on administrative leave. The defense is obviously building the case that this was a shoddy investigation, that we need to know about why this guy's not available, not testifying, why he was either fired or on administrative leave. Who is this guy and what did he do in this case?
That actually slipped my radar. I didn't know about this part. That's crazy. I did not know that I see the cop that I thought they were talking about was the one that came and said, I saw Kelsey screaming, crying. How was Tory? I don't know. I didn't see him. That's not who they're talking about, because this dude, we didn't even see him in court, I'm assuming. Okay.
But let me tell you who I think the most important witness is. Oh no, wait. Why don't you go to my subs where I just did a video, IG subscriptions, telling you exactly who I think the most important witness left is. After this video, it's going to be the big question on your mind. Quan was the driver. He was the only adult in that room. At this point, you might be saying to yourself,
why he said the only adult in that room? Like, that's crazy. Why? Because everybody else is drunk and wilding out?
I don't believe nothing that Meg says. I don't believe nothing that Kelsey says. You would believe what Quan says. Quan was not drunk. Quan seems, in the testimony that we've heard so far, to be a very reasonable, responsible security guard. It was reported by the defense, I think 2 weeks ago, that they can't find Quan. They're looking for him. They want him to testify, to be a witness, but they can't find him.
That boy's at the
Maybe they have an ace in their hole. Maybe they find him. If he is found, and if he testifies, and if he sides with Tory, this is game over. All right, Friday morning session in the books at the Tory Lanez trial. Prosecutors played the recording from their interview with Kelsey back in September 2022. A lot of the jurors had heard a lot of that stuff before, but now they heard it on audio played on the courtroom speaker. Kelsey told the story. She gave a lot of details. You know, when you do a direct examination, you maybe don't go over all the details. When you sit down with police and they do your initial interview, they go over every single detail, and every single detail is on the recording. We got a lot of gossipy details, including that Odell Beckham Jr. was there at the party that night. Kylie Jenner at the front had up to 6 security guards checking people. A lot more. You can go to my IG subscriptions. I'll give you all the gossip details. Let's get to the key part of the recording, and that's where Kelsey implicates Tory in the shooting and also makes statements about Tory putting out the idea that Kelsey denies taking any money, but she did acknowledge during the recorded testimony that statements were made to her that she could be paid. This was way back in.
Again, could be paid. They said that this is when the helicopter started coming and they were in the vehicle, and you guys see Tory Lanez and all them sitting outside the car spread it. They said when all the vehicles are pulling up, everything was happening. Tory Lanez does make an assumption that he would pay everyone $1 million to just shut up, don't say what happened, just be quiet. Remember, he was on probation for another gun case. Tory Lanez, again, is not from the United States. If he gets guilty on another gun case, he will be deported back to where syrup is pulled from trees.
2020. As to the shooting, Kelsey said what prosecutors told the jury that she had told them before, which is that Tory was the shooter. They both got out of the car. Tory hopped into the front seat. He pulled a gun. He shot Megan. The other people at the party, it was Kylie Jenner, one of her male friends, one of her girlfriends, Corey Gamble, who's Kris Jenner's husband, OBJ, one of his.
Yo, am I the only one tripping? Like, why is Corey Gamble chilling with a whole bunch of young bulls? I guess everybody's popping, everybody's lit, but it's just so random to me that Corey Gamble's is there again, just chilling with a whole bunch of 20-something young 30-year-olds.
Friends, and then Meg later invited Tory, and Tory got there. Other stuff, there's 6 security guards at the front when they pulled up. When Meg got there, she was making nachos. She's like, hey, I'm going to make nachos for everybody. Sadly, everybody got very drunk and partied. Looks like the nachos were never eaten. Also, Kelsey describes in detail how Meg started acting really off, was just sounding very weird, very uncomfortable, very unlike herself. And this all happened when Tory was kicking game to Kylie in the pool. And basically they were like, yo, we got to get Meg out of this situation. And Tory's not trying to leave. So that all was very confirmed in vivid detail. Kylie Jenner also has a basketball court. That was interesting. Oh, she said she had more details on when Kylie basically kicked them out. She's like, look, we left without Tory. Meg's lying about this slipper. Oh, and then we came back and we tried to get Tory.
He's lying about the slipper. Yet another lie told by Megan Thee Stallion.
Meg goes in. She comes out immediately with Tory. As she comes out immediately with Tory, it's also Kylie Jenner with them. And Kylie Jenner standing at the porch, basically escorting them out is what it sounded like. And then Meg gets in the car and she's like, bitch, Kylie told us we need to fucking go. And then Quan was like, yeah, they were fighting in there and they got into it. So yeah, that happened.
That is insane. See, that's another piece that I did not know. Kylie walked them out like a mother and just stood on the porch. You have to leave. You have to leave my premise now. And just stood on the balcony and watched them walk away. This is crazy, bro. This is even crazier than I thought. There's one more little quick footage that we can go over, but that was crazy.
We heard the rest of Kelsey Harris's recorded interview with the district attorney and their investigator. Let me catch you up on everything that went on. 2 ways you can look at this recording. 1, it's her honest account of what happened. She sounds confident. She sounds poised. She's telling you every single thing in sequence. 2, you can look at it as somebody who's giving rehearsed statements to police because she's guilty of crimes and doesn't want to tell the truth, and she's got her lawyers on the line and 2.5 years to prepare. So she spins a nice little story that makes her and Meg look good. I don't know. You be the judge. In her recorded testimony, she tells the whole story of what happened. We go to this gathering at Kylie Jenner's house. Apparently, when you go to a gathering at Kylie Jenner's house, it can be pretty cool. There's lots of security, as many as 6 when you pull up. OBJ is there. It's like a hotel. You get your own room to check into. Quite fan. The whole issue of Kylie and Tory.
That's another quick thing I just want to scan over so quickly. A lot of people made it sound like Tory Lanez was spending the night because he didn't want to leave with Kylie Jenner. Let's also clean up Kylie Jenner's name. No, he was not. Kylie Jenner, when she throws house parties, I'm assuming it's just rich people shit. We're not there yet. I'll let you know when I get invited. But supposedly you could turn up all you want, drink all you want. There's guest rooms. A guest room? Nah, sure. We got guest rooms. Everybody got their own guest room.
And Meg getting jealous and then trying to pull Meg out, and then they leave, and then they come back because Meg said she forgot a slipper, and then Kylie kicks them out. And now we're in the car. Tory's saying stuff like, hey, Meg, why don't you tell your friend what's so funny, referring to the fact that Meg backdoored Kelsey by hooking up with Tory. And then they're like getting back at him like, yo, whatever, you this, you're that. She's making fun of his career. You're only relevant because you were on a Jack Harlow feature. He's popping shit like, yo, I'm from Canada. Car, they both get out of the car. She sees Tory hop from the back to the...
Yo, imagine somebody saying, man, you ain't shit. Like, what? I'm from Canada. Like, nigga, that ain't helping your situation. Terrence and Phillip? Shit ain't helping your situation.
Front, he's got a gun and he points it and he shoots at Megan. That's the recorded statement. Does that add up and mesh with everything else? Well, how did the jewelry fall? How did the necklace get on the floor?
How did the nail get on the floor?
She says, well, that's Tory physically assaulting me, and that's how all that happened. As far as her and Meg getting into an altercation, no mention to the police on the recorded interview. Was there a police officer or a detective from the LAPD at that interview treating it like she might be a suspect or hostile? Absolutely not. If you ask me, I don't think Tory was the only aggressor putting hands on people. That's what I get if you ask me when you look at the very different stories that everybody's telling and the part that the two females don't want to talk about. Remember the physical statures of the people involved. The idea that only men can physically assault women is a common misconception and not at all accurate.
Common misconception. Tory Lanez is fucking, I was about to say 5'3". You see, that's why I said the last episode, y'all won't stop with that joke. I'm over here going along with it. But yeah, Tory definitely, I'm not going to say he's going to get beat up by Meg, because we've seen what he did to dudes before. But, yeah, nah, let's just remember, though, that Shorty's built like She-Hulk, and this nigga's built like an 8th grader.
Accurate. That's the shooting. Then they all get back in the car. They're driving. Kelsey texts my security. She texts the security. That's the text. Tory shot Meg. 911. Is that a real text? Is that a cover-up? Then the rest was all of the aftermath. That when they get released, that there were indications made to her from Tory's team that they would invest in her business or that they'd be willing to talk to her about giving her money. Whether any of that was a bribe or was taken, Kelsey denied. And then what happened afterwards in terms of her communications with other people post the incident. She said that she basically never has talked to Meg. They had one conversation. Meg and her team were lying to her and saying that, hey, I'm really badly injured. I'm going to be out of commission for probably at least a year. There's nothing for you to do here. You need to get out of LA. And they basically shoot her away and sent her on to Houston, and she hasn't heard from her since. The recording ends with the prosecutors asking that, hey, are you just saying all this to get back into Meg's good graces? And she says, no, I'm saying all this to relieve myself of the burden of this. I just want to move on from it. On cross-examination, the defense highlighted a couple key facts about this interview. One, there was no police presence, nobody investigating or asking Kelsey hard questions. Two, there was no grant of immunity to Kelsey at that time. So if she did have stuff to hide her own criminality, she would not have been immune.
And the reason that is so important, because if you guys remember, she kept pleading the fifth. I'm not testifying until I can make sure that I got immunity. Oh, but that day you didn't. You testified.
From making statements, and so she had an incentive to lie. Three, they had asked her during the interview about certain text messages that might be relevant to the investigation, but there was no follow-up. They never went back and said, hey, can we get those text messages? And four, the idea that her lawyers were on the line and that this is rehearsed, prepared testimony that she had a lot of time to get ready for and give. Like I said, ultimately, what do you make of that recording? Well, you're going to listen to all the evidence in this trial. Trial continues next week, and then you're going to make your decision on who's lying, who's telling the truth. How did those bullet fragments get into Meg Thee Stallion's foot? And is Tory Lanez guilty or not guilty? Find out all that and more next week for exclusive, additional, interesting tidbits. Check out the subscription here on the main page. You will see posts about the DNA expert and the ballistics expert who testified today. Catch you up on what happened with the DNA experts. So both of the DNA experts said pretty much the exact same thing with very minute differences. Here's the basics, then I'll tell you what I think. So they both said that the magazine was tested and there were 4 DNA profiles on the magazine, and you can tell that none of those are Tory. So most likely Tory never touched this magazine. On the gun, they both...
Also, I own a weapon myself. I'm always walking around with a weapon. You have to load your gun. How in the living hell are you going to load your gun? How is there 4 other people's fingerprints on it, not yours, and you're the one that shot it? Again, unless you take somebody else's shit and shoot it in the air, but what is the odds of that? Is Shorty's DNA on that magazine? That's what I want.
Both said the same thing, that there's 4 profiles on the gun, but it's inconclusive. You can't tell if the DNA is Tory's or somebody else's. Now, both experts agreed that you would expect to see Tory's DNA on the gun if he had shot it 5 times. The defense experts seem to go further and say, look, if he shot that gun 5 times and then they tested it, you would conclusively see that he's on it. You don't see that here, suggesting strong DNA evidence in Tory's favor. Now, then the prosecution went to try to discredit the defense expert. He's like, aren't you getting paid by the defense? Don't you always work for defendants? He's like, yeah, the LAPD has their crime prosecutor, and then defendants hire private companies like mine to do the forensics. It's like, oh, okay, well, how much are you getting paid? The guy's like $250 an hour. How much has he paid you total? The guy's like $6,000. It's like, oh, well, it was really kind of just like, look, there's experts, man. This guy's been doing it forever. He's like, are you accredited? And he's like, no, I didn't apply for accreditation. I'm certified by the same people who do accreditation. It's like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, twice a year, our lab people all get tested. They send them blind samples. They have to do the analysis, send it back, and then we get the results. He's like, oh, okay, well, what are the results? He's like, well, we never got anything wrong. And the guy's like, how do we know that? He's like, I'm telling you. It's like, how do we know you're not lying? He's like, well, you can check. I'll show you the records. And then he just kept going on and on. Look, at the end of the day, the DNA evidence came out strongly, I think, in favor of Tory. We'll see where the rest of the trial takes us. There was one other part, the big part, which is that they never gave the crime lab Kelsey's DNA, and so
that's
on
crazy.
The defense brought out this point that, hey, if you ever get a case file and there's two people with GSR, wouldn't you expect to get two people's DNA? And the guy's like, yeah, that would make sense. If there's two people who've tested positive for the GSR and we're testing one's DNA, we ought to test both DNA.
Yes.
Yo, it's true. The security guard for Meg Thee Stallion, the prosecution intended to call him as a witness. They were not able to produce him last week. Now, what's the significance of this? We were able to track him down and bring him in. I think the only thing the prosecution really wants him for is to have him say, hey, didn't you get this text message from Kelsey after the shooting? And they can show it to the jury again. I don't think the defense has it.
Okay, guys, it's looking spooky. My camera's about to run out of reel, but what do you guys think after the day 5 wrap-up? Tory's no DNA found in the magazine. Tory inconclusive with DNA found on the weapon itself. He did have residue on him. Kelsey had residue on him again. But if I shoot this in a small SUV, residue's going to get on anyone that's sitting next to me, even if you're innocent. Let me know what you think down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Like I love to say, until the next, we out here. Tune in for day 6.